As Israel's Independence Day is approaching, a devastating wildfire that lasted 30 hours has raged, dealing a heavy blow to the small country. This unprecedented fire began to spread in the suburbs of Jerusalem on April 30th, quickly engulfing thousands of acres of forest and residential areas, causing heavy casualties and property losses, and once threatened the city of Jerusalem. This wildfire of unknown cause not only destroyed this green lung, but also completely disrupted Israel's upcoming Independence Day celebrations, casting a dark cloud over the entire country. At 9:30 a.m. on April 30th, Israeli police received an alarm that the Eshtaol forest, about 30 kilometers west of Jerusalem, suddenly caught fire. The dry and hot weather and strong winds fueled the fire, causing it to lose control in an instant and quickly spread to several nearby areas. In less than an hour, the fire engulfed several villages including Neve Shalom, Beko'a, Taz, and Nachshon, forcing the authorities to issue an emergency evacuation order. The Israeli Fire Department immediately mobilized dozens of fire brigades to put out the fire, but due to the strong winds, the firefighting work was stuck. The fire continued to spread westward, threatening Highway 1 connecting Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. The fire department then had to evacuate residents around the Nachshon Military Memorial, and an ancient monastery in the area was also forced to evacuate. Fire official Eyar Caspi said at a subsequent press conference that the fire may be the largest in the country's history. As the fire intensified, the Israeli government finally declared a national emergency. Defense Minister Israel Katz ordered the military to participate in supporting the firefighting team to try to control the spread of the fire. The Israeli Air Force also launched a large-scale participation, dispatching C-130J Super Hercules transport aircraft and many other aircraft to drop a large amount of fire-extinguishing agent on the fire. At the same time, dozens of residential areas around Jerusalem were hastily evacuated. Hundreds of cars were forced to stop on the road and could not move forward, and the trapped people jumped out of the car and fled on foot. Medical rescuers also tried their best to rescue people, but as of that afternoon, 23 people have been sent to hospital for treatment due to smoke inhalation, 13 of whom were hospitalized. In addition, 12 firefighters were injured while fighting the fire. Until the evening, the fire was still burning fiercely, spreading to multiple hot spots, and the fire department and the military were still struggling to fight. The damage caused by this wildfire was extremely serious and affected a wide range. According to statistics from the Israeli Fire Department and the Jewish National Fund, the fire burned about 20,000 dunams, 5,000 acres, of land, including 13,000 dunams, 3,000 acres, of forest. The famous Canadian park was almost razed to the ground, and the Nachshon Military Memorial was also severely damaged. The disaster area was wide. In addition to villages such as Neve Shalom, Beko'a, Taz, and Nachshon, several communities such as Mevo Horon, Mishmar Ayalon, Beit Meir, Mezilat Zion, and Shayar Haggai were forced to evacuate. In the Nachshon region, the fire engulfed a Catholic monastery and a military memorial, which is a memorial to the fallen soldiers of the Israeli tank troops. In addition to the huge property losses, the wildfire also caused casualties. According to Megan David Adam, an ambulance service, at least 23 people needed hospitalization due to smoke inhalation and burns, including 2 pregnant women and 2 babies under 1 year old. In addition, 12 firefighters were injured in the process of extinguishing the fire. Although no casualties were reported in the end, the wildfire undoubtedly dealt a heavy blow to Israeli society. At the critical moment when the wildfire continued to rage and intensified, the Israeli government and military and police firefighting forces fully invested in emergency rescue operations. At the same time, neighboring countries also lent a hand and tried to jointly extinguish the devastating fire that ravaged Israel. As the fire spread uncontrollably, the Israeli government soon declared a national state of emergency. Defense Minister Katz urgently ordered the military to fully support the firefighting forces. The Israeli Air Force quickly dispatched 130J Super Hercules transport aircraft, and other fighters to drop a large amount of fire-extinguishing agents on the fire scene. Engineering vehicles were also dispatched to the front line to open fire prevention channels in the mountains and forests. The Special Forces of the Israel Defense Forces also joined the rescue, mobilizing hundreds of active and reserve officers and soldiers to participate in the evacuation of trapped people. The fire department also mobilized 163 fire brigades from all over the country to fight the fire scene. They were not afraid of hardships and fought a fierce battle with the raging fire. However, due to the strong wind, the firefighting aircraft could not play their due role, and the firefighting force was once at a disadvantage. Fire Chief E.R. Caspi said worriedly, "Our planes can't take off now. The weather conditions are really bad." Medical Rescue Agency Megan David Adam also went all out. They deployed a large number of ambulances, intensive ambulances, and motorcycle ambulances to provide emergency rescue for the injured. By that afternoon, they had treated 23 people, 13 of whom needed hospitalization. Under the urgent appeal of the Israeli government, many countries have expressed their willingness to lend a helping hand. Italy, Croatia, Romania, Spain, France, and other countries quickly promised to send firefighting aircraft to Israel for support. The first batch of 3 Super Mackerel large firefighting aircraft from Italy and Croatia soon arrived in Israel. Subsequently, Romania sent a firefighting aircraft and a support aircraft. Spain sent 2 aircraft, and France also sent a firefighting aircraft. In addition, Ukraine and North Macedonia also expressed their willingness to provide helicopter support. Cyprus directly proposed to send a fire brigade to reinforce. The arrival of these international rescue forces undoubtedly brought hope to Israel to put out the fire. But even with international assistance, the momentum of the wildfire is still difficult to contain. As the strong winds continued to rage, the fire continued to spread in different hot spots. The military memorial and the ancient Catholic monastery in the Nachshon area were hit hard again, and hundreds of vehicles were trapped on the road and unable to escape. Under the raging wildfire that lasted for 30 hours, local residents fell into panic and despair. From a video, we can see that some people who escaped from the fire staggered and looked terrified. They abandoned their vehicles and fled on foot, fearing that they would be engulfed by the fire the next moment. Yuval Aharoni, a 40-year-old resident who escaped from Modi'in, said sadly, "It's so sad because we knew there would be such weather, but we still felt that they were not well prepared and did not have those large fire extinguishers." The hospital also activated the emergency plan, and the Hadassah Medical Center urged the public to avoid going to the hospital as much as possible and only come in the most urgent cases. The hospital also began to transfer stable patients to make room for the wounded who may pour in at any time. Other hospitals also admitted dozens of wounded people injured by smoking. Undoubtedly, the wildfire that ravaged Israel brought great panic and trauma to the local people. They witnessed the tragic scene of their homes and beloved things being engulfed by the fire, and the emotions of helplessness and despair spread in their hearts. The Israeli people are experiencing an unprecedented disaster baptism. While the rescue work is in full swing, the work of investigating the cause of the wildfire is also in full swing. Israeli police said a suspect had been arrested. Police said they arrested a 50-year-old man in the Mtuba community in eastern Jerusalem on suspicion of trying to set fire to a lawn in South Jerusalem. It is reported that the man tried to escape when he was found by the police, but was eventually caught. Among his belongings, the police found lighters, cotton, and other flammable items. However, the police also admitted that the exact cause of the fire could not be determined at present. The Internal Security Agency also participated in the investigation, but no clear evidence has been found. In addition, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu also pointed out that there is evidence that this may be an arson case, but the police have not yet reached a final conclusion. In addition, some people have also pointed the finger at climate change. Fire Chief E.R. Caspi once said that this huge fire is closely related to global warming. When we talk about global warming, this is reality he said. In fact, Israel has indeed experienced consecutive dry winters in recent years, making the area particularly dry and flammable. Coupled with the raging winds, it undoubtedly provides the most favorable conditions for the spread of the fire. However, some people criticize the Israeli government and fire department for their poor response. Some security experts pointed out that the police and fire brigade ignored the previous fire warnings, which ultimately made it difficult to effectively control the fire. Moreover, Israel's infrastructure and equipment were also obviously insufficient, which affected the rescue effect. In general, behind this huge disaster, there are factors such as extreme weather and climate change, as well as human negligence and weak infrastructure. The wildfire that swept Israel has undoubtedly dealt a heavy blow to the country, which needs to be highly valued by the government and all citizens. Wildfire disasters are one of the major natural disasters facing the world today. Due to the influence of many factors such as climate change and human activities, some areas are more vulnerable to the threat of wildfires. First of all, the western United States is one of the high-incidence areas of wildfires. According to the U.S. National Forestry Administration, California has experienced several serious wildfires every year in the past decade, with more than 9,000 wildfires in 2020 alone, burning more than 4.2 million acres. Secondly, the eastern part of Australia is also a hotspot prone to wildfires. Statistics from the Australian Bureau of Meteorology show that in 2019 to 2020, Eastern Australia faced the worst wildfire season on record, causing more than 12 million acres of forest and grassland to be burned. Once again, the Amazon region is also facing a severe threat of wildfires. According to satellite data from the Brazilian National Space Agency, the Amazon rainforest suffered the worst wildfires in history in 2019, burning more than 9 million acres. At the same time, British Columbia in Western Canada is also a region prone to wildfires. According to data from the Canadian Department of Natural Resources, there were several large-scale wildfires in the province in 2017 and 2018, burning areas of 1.2 million and 1.9 million acres respectively. In addition, the countries along the Mediterranean coast cannot be ignored. According to statistics from the European Union, serious wildfires have broken out in Italy, Greece, Spain, and other countries every year in the past decade, burning areas of hundreds of thousands of acres. It is worth mentioning that South Africa's generally high temperature and drought environment also makes it a high-risk area prone to wildfires. According to data from the South African National Disaster Management Center, in 2017, the country suffered the worst wildfire disaster in history, killing 9 people and destroying 2,000 buildings. It cannot be ignored that Russia's Siberia region is also often plagued by wildfires. According to data from the Russian Forestry Agency, more than 15,000 wildfires occurred in Siberia in 2021, burning more than 36 million acres. It is particularly important that the dry and hot climate in areas such as the Mediterranean coast and California, coupled with dense populations and developed economies, makes these areas extremely prone to wildfires and huge losses. More noteworthy is that although underdeveloped areas such as the Amazon and Siberia are sparsely populated, large-scale, uncontrollable wildfires often occur due to weak protection awareness. It is worth noting that with climate change, the frequency and burned area of wildfires in these high-risk areas may increase further in the future. It cannot be ignored that countries should strengthen wildfire prevention and emergency preparedness, improve public safety awareness, and increase investment in improving related infrastructure. What should be paid more attention to is that the international community should strengthen cooperation and jointly formulate effective measures to deal with wildfire disasters to minimize the losses caused by this natural disaster. More importantly, we need to take strong actions to address climate change, which is the key to preventing and mitigating wildfire disasters. It is important to note that wildfire disasters not only cause huge damage to the local area, but also have a serious impact on the global environment. What is easily overlooked is that we should be highly vigilant about this. Preventing and controlling wildfire disasters is a systematic project that requires comprehensive measures. First of all, strengthening prevention is the most critical step. According to data from the U.S. National Forestry Administration, more than 84% of wildfires in the past decade were caused by human factors, such as smoking, garbage incineration, and other improper behaviors. Therefore, governments should formulate stricter fire prevention regulations, increase law enforcement efforts, and raise public awareness of fire prevention. Secondly, it is also important to improve the monitoring and early warning system. According to statistics from the Australian Bureau of Meteorology, the Bureau issued several high-risk warnings in the early stage of the 2019 to 2020 wildfire season, but still failed to curb the spread of wildfires in time. Therefore, it is necessary to establish an early warning system covering multiple means, such as satellite remote sensing and ground monitoring, to detect signs and take action in time. Thirdly, strengthening emergency response capabilities is also the key to disaster prevention and mitigation. According to the Federal Emergency Management Agency of the United States, the direct economic losses caused by the California wildfires in 2018 were as high as $16.5 billion. Therefore, governments should invest more funds to equip firefighting vehicles, train firefighters, and formulate flexible and effective emergency plans. In addition, cooperation with civil forces should be strengthened to give full play to the role of community, self-police organizations, and volunteers. At the same time, improving the post-disaster recovery and reconstruction mechanism cannot be ignored. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, wildfires in the Amazon region in 2019 caused more than 9 million acres of tropical rainforest to be destroyed. Therefore, countries should establish special recovery plans, including replanting trees and repairing infrastructure, to restore the ecological environment of the affected areas as soon as possible. It is worth mentioning that strengthening international cooperation is also an effective way to prevent and control wildfires. According to statistics from the European Union, the wildfire disasters suffered by Mediterranean coastal countries in 2017 caused more than 100,000 people to be homeless. Therefore, relevant countries should establish mechanisms such as information sharing and resource allocation to jointly respond to cross-border wildfire disasters. It cannot be ignored that it is also important to improve the community's disaster resistance. According to data from the South African National Disaster Management Center, the wildfires that occurred in the area in 2017 caused serious casualties. Therefore, local governments should strengthen disaster emergency training for community residents and improve their self-rescue and mutual rescue capabilities. It is particularly important that increasing investment in scientific research and developing new technologies and equipment can also provide strong support for the prevention and control of wildfires. According to data from the Russian Forestry Agency, more than 60% of the wildfires that occurred in Siberia in 2021 were discovered and extinguished in time by advanced technologies such as drones and satellites. More noteworthy is that improving forest management can also reduce the risk of wildfires. According to research by the U.S. National Forestry Administration, proper thinning and clearing can effectively reduce combustibles in the forest, thereby reducing the probability of wildfires. It is also necessary to strengthen public education. It cannot be ignored that many wildfire accidents are related to human factors, such as improper behaviors such as smoking and garbage incineration. Therefore, governments should use public service advertisements, community lectures, and other methods to improve the public's awareness and consciousness of fire prevention. What should be paid more attention to is that it is also important to establish a sound disaster compensation mechanism. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the Amazon wildfires caused farmers suffered economic losses of more than $3 billion. Therefore, countries should introduce relevant policies to provide timely and effective economic compensation and living assistance to the affected people. More importantly, responding to climate change is the fundamental solution. It is particularly important to note that the rising temperature and reduced rainfall caused by climate change have increased the frequency and burn area of wildfires. According to the U.S. National Climate Assessment Report, California alone suffered a number of unprecedented wildfire disasters from 2018 to 2022. Therefore, countries should formulate practical emission reduction plans to curb the trend of global warming and reduce the occurrence of wildfire disasters from the root. What is easily overlooked is that this requires the joint efforts of governments, enterprises, and even the entire public, and each of us should contribute to this.